Did you notice the Atlanta Hawks had been better this season without Trae Young? The Hawks had a winning record without Ice Trae, and with him, they were well below 500. They finally decided to move on. But how did we get here? Trae's issues start on the defensive end, where his lack of size and physicality makes him an easy target for offenses. So Trae Young pretty consistently gets targeted on defense. Here, the Heat are running a pick and roll between Davion Mitchell and Khalil Ware, and they know by doing so, they can get Dyson Daniels off of the ball. The issue here is that Trae Young doesn't provide enough resistance as a defender on ball. Teams score incredibly efficiently when Trae Young gets blown by. And so as you see here, Davion Mitchell resets, understanding that Trae Young is on him so he can take advantage, quick crossover, and that's all it takes for Davion Mitchell to get into the teeth of the defense and finish with a floater. But without Trae, the Hawks have the size and length on the perimeter to wall off the paint against their opponents. So the Hawks typically like to switch everything, especially on ball. AJ Mitchell and Aaron Wiggins are running a high pick and roll here for the Thunder. The Hawks switch this action with Luke Kennard picking up the ball. This doesn't allow AJ Mitchell to get downhill easily. Now, as we see here, AJ Mitchell is going to flow into a dribble handoff with Jalen Williams. Watch as Nickeil Alexander-Walker is going to fight through multiple screens. Now, Nickeil Alexander-Walker gets laid out on this screen, but immediately Onyeka Okongwu picks up the ball and switches this action. So with Okongwu picking up the ball, he uses his size and speed on the perimeter really well, so he can switch out onto these players. And it also makes it so that Jalen Williams doesn't have a clear passing window over the top here to Chet Holmgren. Instead, he has to wrap this pass around to Chet Holmgren, and that gives Mo Gay here an extra bit of time to jump this passing lane and steal this ball. Now, offensively, Trae is a pick and roll heavy, high usage guard, which can make the Hawks deadly, but it also makes the Hawks predictable. So Trae Young is a pick and roll savant. So as we see here, the Hawks are going to run him through two pick and rolls, essentially a staggered screening action where multiple guys will be screening Trae Young, and that creates so many playmaking opportunities for Trae. The first one is a pick and roll between Vit Krejci and Trae. Usually it'll be a switch, but the Knicks do not concede a switch in this scenario. The second pick and roll is a traditional pick and roll. As this pick and roll is happening, Vit Krejci is shaking to the weak side corner, and Trae Young can zip this pass over to him. The Hawks are running a strong side action where Dyson Daniels is setting a pin down for Jalen Johnson to pop out to this corner. That engages the help defense of the Knicks, and as well as Onyeka Okongwu is rolling to the basket here where Trae can, dime him up as well. But Trae really likes to work in the middle of the floor here because teams know that he's not the greatest at finishing at the basket. That's exactly what makes this Knicks defense squeeze in at this moment and make it harder for him to make these plays. The Hawks offense is predictable at this point because they know where Trae wants to go on the floor. They force him into a tough look, they force a turnover, and the Knicks get out and running. And while there's no question that Atlanta is more dynamic offensively with Trae, without him, they've leaned on cutting and off-ball movement to score, two areas that are a weakness for him. So the Hawks like to run an egalitarian offense without Trae Young, which is predicated on a lot of off-ball movement. Here, they're running a pick and roll with Onyeka Okongwu and Luke Kennard. Now, Vit Krejci runs a guard screen and roll, and that creates a lot of opportunities because Kennard is such a good shooter that he can pop out to this area of the floor. Now the defense has to scramble. They don't switch this action. Tristan da Silva fights through it, and Vit Krejci doesn't create any sort of advantage. But I want you to keep in note the weak side of the ball. After Luke Kennard sets the screen, he's going to cut this way to make the Magic defense have to scramble on the weak side. So as we see here, Anthony Black is able to stay with Kennard, and watch as Jace Richardson, the rookie, is a little bit late on the timing of this. And Dyson Daniels does such a good job of getting the off-ball defenders to bite on these fakes. He fakes coming out to the three-point line and instead cuts back door. And now this creates a passing window for Vit Krejci. So a lot of off-ball movement as Daniels finishes here. It feels like just yesterday that Trae's enigmatic play led the Hawks to the conference finals. But in the 4 seasons since, the Trae-led Hawks had meandered in the middle of the Eastern Conference with no hopes of escape. Now Trae embarks on a new journey in Washington with the Wizards, where he can help develop a young, intriguing core and hopefully iron out some of his flaws as a star.